The law of life, the first one is to rise above limiting life patterns to realize ultimate happiness. Part of this is a big one.
Yes, that's what you want to start with, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole book.
Yeah. So I wanted to start out by asking you, like, what that law of life means to you, and maybe even why you opened up the book with that law.
Yeah, I wanted to set the tone because everybody looks for happiness, right? Would you guys agree? Everybody is looking for happiness. And usually everybody goes for happiness. What I wanted to go for is what takes us away from the happiness. Does that make sense? So what does take happiness away from you? Tell me, Beth, Dionne, Lisa, what takes happiness away from you? The triggers?
What's like blocking you from
exactly that's
getting in the way?
Exactly.
Fears.
What's in the way? What is blocking you to be happy?
I think, I mean, you guys have said, fears are related. For me, I think it shows up the most as like, and especially before I've done a lot of personal work, like just the amount of emotions I have is like, it really colors my life and can make it difficult for me to know who I am or have energy. So that's a big one for me.
Exactly, Dionne, exactly. So the emotions, when you're covered by emotions, the emotional reactions, that blocks your happiness. That takes happiness away from your life, away from you, right?
And I think some of us don't even realize what's going on, why we're not happy. We just know that we're sort of in a funk, or we know that things aren't exactly like we'd want them, but we don't know what to do. We don't know how to change things. We don't know how to, get out of the hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have an idea how to be happy, but we don't know because these blockages, these triggers, we call them, right? So they keep repeating and we are reacting. And when you react, what happens? When you react,
I think for most of us, we don't look within. We just look externally, right? We see the triggers, we react to it, and we think that is just part of life, that we don't have any control over that.
Lisa, exactly. So we keep reacting. Yes, Beth?
It's so immediate. We don't even know what's happening.
We don't
just
know
the way it is.
Exactly. So it is very unconscious. It is because it is in the subconscious where we have this fight or flight response systems, and that is the reason for our emotional reactions. And Dionne said about the fears, and that they are the culprit behind our emotional reactions. So how many of you keep having the same emotional reaction over and over and over and again? Anybody?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think one of the biggest steps and why this has been so difficult is I remember in the beginning, and I still experience this, but like loads of shame, and shame is so debilitating. But I wasn't aware of how much of a grip that had on me, and like, just to be able to look at that was really heavy, because I wasn't aware of how much I was running from that.
And it could be like you said, we are, not just you, we are running away from it, and nobody wants to stop and look back and look within, as Lisa is saying. It's just like we cannot afford, while the life is continuing 100 miles an hour, to stop and look inside, because we are afraid, rightfully, because there is so much inside of us buried, right? So then we are unconsciously, Beth, as you were saying, just how it is all, we don't know what's going on, and we unconsciously.
It's a lot easier to just blame somebody else. But what we don't realize is that if we don't go within, then these things keep happening and keep repeating when it doesn't have to. That we have the power to change that.
100%,
But for
Lisa.
me, it's been really like, Dionne, you talk about your shame. It's like that awareness, because I think we get used to these emotions or the feelings or the shame to a point where we just incorporate it into our life. It becomes our new normal. So we don't even know or realize that there can be another way. We just know that we're not happy or things aren't the way we want them to be. So I love, Art, of the way you start out with the book with telling everybody to pause. And it's not just like a one-time pause. I feel like it's a pause that we need to incorporate into our entire day. And continuing to pause and kind of look like, okay, where am I now? What's going on for me? Dionne, like, what am I feeling? And incorporate that pause and let that be an invitation to dig a little deeper. Because I think sometimes we don't even know the pattern that is in our life. Or I've heard it as addictions. Like, I think we all have addictions, but we think of it just as like, gambling or alcohol or drugs, but we all have addictions in our life. And again, I think that's maybe what you almost refer to as a life limiting pattern. And it could be like a workaholic, like some addictions are socially acceptable, right? But they're still a life limiting pattern for us.
Yes, socially acceptable, but for Rice to realize it is all the same category.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right, Beth. It's just like it is our unconscious pattern keeps repeating. And as Lisa was saying, just like it is outside, we keep looking outside, and everything keeps repeating. So that's why, coming back to the law of life, number one is when you rise above those patterns, and without pausing, don't even think about it. Without pausing and getting an awareness, developing a presence, we don't stand a chance to rise above these triggers, because we are captivated by that fight or flight response, thanks to our subconscious, right? And that's where the ultimate happiness lies. It's just a kind of like I started doing these small videos about the follow your bliss, Joseph Campbell, right? Hero's journey. That ultimate happiness is the bliss right behind the trigger events, behind these limiting life patterns, right?
So, Arda, would you say that like the life limiting patterns are sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like 3D, and then to rise above it, we've got to step into sort of like a higher consciousness in order to do that? Or do you feel like,
Absolutely. 3D, maybe 2D. So limiting life patterns are two-dimensional, because it's either good, it's bad. Even sometimes this is a conversation in the workshops, like, hey, I'm having a great emotion right now. Should I worry about it? Shall I really investigate it? Yes, I'm a little attached to my goals and this and that, and I feel very happy now that I found someone. Do I need to dig in more? I mean, yes, having a great time is absolutely, but the thing is, the limiting life patterns will catch up with you, and that is the binary of life. Okay, it's always somebody else's fault, right? First, that's defense. So we just attack someone, like Lisa was saying, like, oh, we always think that it's somebody else's. And early on, right before we started recording, Beth, you were saying the same, just like it's somebody else. And then we start giving into our inner talk, oh, maybe it is our fault. Oh, they're not calling us again, or I'm not invited, or somebody said something that it sounds like criticism. So we are going back and forth. It's their fault, it's our fault. Rising above is becoming aware of that and understanding why we are perceiving things that way. And then we go to the 3D above that, rising into that higher consciousness that you're alluding to. Yes, I think that's a great awareness that you're bringing. Yes, higher consciousness. And how you can do that? How can you do that? Awareness.
That's a great question, because I mean, I think we're often stuck in this story. It's your fault. It's, you know, some people are very self-deprecating. It's you know, my fault and everybody's against me. And sometimes it's like a blame game, and you get in the habit of blaming other people for what's going wrong in your life. And, you know, I see this with my daughter. I mean, she doesn't even maybe realize. And I think that's not uncommon. I think that's all of us. One of my strategies, I guess, that I talked to you guys about earlier is to try to switch it and tell a different story, and try to rise above that pattern by, again, you know, telling a different story. That maybe.
Does that work, Beth? Does that work? Telling a different, and I'm actually curious how others think as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think it can work. I mean, I think it switches it from that victim mindset. And then I think by telling another story, I mean, I feel like it helps me, helps other people take back their power in a situation. Because as long as you're the victim, you're giving away your power.
Absolutely.
To others.
Beautiful. So it's all about power. Exactly.
I don't know, Lisa, I know you have a great story, and I don't know if you would be willing to share with your neighbors.
Well, actually, I had a question about what we're
Sure.
just on what we were just mentioning, because so Beth had this realization, right, that maybe there's a different story, and it's not her fault, it's not the other person's fault, and just having that awareness, and she rose above the trigger, and so she didn't react to it, or, you know, maybe she reacted to it and then just had the realization after. But does that then break this pattern? Does that mean that this type of trigger will happen less frequently or not happen for Beth anymore? Just on the law of life, like, how does this work?
Yeah, let's explore that. Dionne, it looks like you have something to say.
How can you tell? So I guess something that came up when you were talking, Beth, and tying into what you're saying and what you're asking, Lisa, this idea of writing a new story or having a new narrative. And I think there's an important question there that comes up for me, which is, because, okay, first of all, there is an element. Let's do the opposite. Let's do something different. Let's try to shake things up. Let's say yes when we would normally say no. But ultimately, this question comes up for me as like, is this new story being told from a place of understanding and awareness of maybe the reason that the problem is there in the first place, or whatever the fear that I'm typically running from has caused me to be in that position.
What do you mean? What do you mean the new story being told by a new understanding or new place? What do you mean?
Well, that the new story has to have or my goal is to have it be aware of the pattern, or aware of, I guess what I'm saying is that there's one way of writing a story that involves a lot of, like, that can sometimes cover up the issue, like a running away from it. And I'm not suggesting that's what you're saying, Beth, but like, what has helped me the most in this work is to understand. It's the understanding of why I'm reacting.
So you stay with the reaction rather than write a story. Okay.
Like, if for my example, just for anyone, was that I had missed a meeting, and I started to sort of go through my head, like, you know, why did you do that? And how could you have done that better? And I can't believe that, you know, this happened. And then I switches, you know, I was playing the victim. And then I, you know, took it even a step farther. And I was thinking in my head, like, this other person who planned the meeting should have followed up more. They should have given me more emails or whatever. And so sort of started putting the blame on somebody else.
Yeah.
And then I took a step back and I said, this isn't it at all. I mean, if I look at the situation, I did everything I knew how to do. And the person who was, the facilitator or the, doing the meeting, the committee chair, she did all her right things and it just didn't happen. And I had to just say, that's okay. And that felt like a much better place. But I think, Dionne, it sounds like you're saying that maybe it also would be a place for self-exploration, like what's going on below that, underneath that. Or do you talk about an iceberg, like our emotions are the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of ice under the water, right? So what's going on of my own self-worth or my own, development there that maybe is also even maybe farther down in that iceberg. Is that what you're saying?
Something to explore, I think. Maybe there's a
because I know that, man. I know that I have lots of self-worth issues.
I mean, everybody has it. So Dionne, Lisa, what kind of techniques would you use to have introspection when that story is going and you feel victim, and what you want to stay with it to like that pause? You're doing the pause. What kind of techniques do you guys use to dig deeper?
The pause is so critical. I think it's so underrated and it sounds so simple, but it turns the tide, in my opinion. If I can pause, and then there's other techniques, of course, like, feeling it in the body, but it's usually that resistance to stopping and feeling that I have to encounter first. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I think
Lisa, what's your favorite?
I think the pause is really critical because soon as that trigger happens, I think we're programmed to react right away. So if we have enough awareness to be able to pause and then to have the strength or courage or consciousness to be able to sit and observe our emotions and welcome the emotion, to really feel it in our body, take a moment to go within, to ask ourselves, what is this really about? What does this remind me of?
Yeah.
Has this happened before? And then to be able to eliminate that from our body and think about our response.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, Lisa. I love that, because I feel like part of this work has shown me how important it is to honor our emotions. And I think all too often, if something feels uncomfortable, we just want to dismiss it.
Yes.
We want it to go away as fast as possible. And and I've even felt like as a mom, I've done this with my own kids, like, okay, like if you're happy, that means that I've done a really good job as a mom, right? Learning that I really have to honor their feelings, and it's okay for them to be unhappy, and to honor my own feelings, like you said, and to welcome even those uncomfortable feelings, because they're really important insights for us. They hold a lot of important information.
Beautiful. And stories are helpful as well. So let's not dismiss that. But I think these are the opportunities, using a different story about the perception that we had initially, and then pausing and coming into the body. Two things I like to add and get your thoughts on that. One, today I was talking in a session with someone, and they asked me, like, how do you use the breath? Because when we welcome, when we drop into the body, we feel the charge, and we use the breath to inhale into it and exhale to discharge, right? So that we can take the control back after pausing. So I kind of like, yeah, what is this breath? How is it helping? So recently, when I was dropping into my body, when I was reacting, and I inhaled into it, like felt it in my chest and inhaled into it, an enormous amount of power, a powerful energy was flowing into my chest. And as if it was just this powerful hand grabbed that energy, that heaviness, the tightness I had in my chest, because I was feeling anxious. I was feeling, actually doing these recordings. And then when I was exhaling, I dropped it into the floor, out of my body, right? That was first time maybe I teach this, and I knew the power of the breath, but never ever experienced that. And the question my client had was very timely, because I experienced this a couple of days ago. I was just like, that's what happened. That's what happens with the breath. And we can use the breath to discharge this. So I want to ask you guys about that breath, how you guys use that. And the second thing I'm curious about is that, how about this? What if, so what? How are you guys using this? Is it kind of a tool that you go and take it? Is it available? Is it handy, or is it just kind of a little buried? What do you guys think?
The point of
I've used the what if so what recently, but I also had a recent revelation with the breath on how powerful that is. And why is that? I mean, I felt that too. Like I had like this restriction that was just so strong. And we've been studying this for so long, and we know that it works, but then like to actually feel it, it was so miraculous.
I think, Lisa, I mean, Arda, you can speak to this too, but I think that's connecting you to your larger self, that breath, your higher self, your larger self, spiritual self, whatever you want to call it, and put a label on it. But that's why it's so powerful, right?
So powerful. Dionne, what do you think? Good, very good insight, Beth.
I don't like a lot of like following teachers or strictly following methods, but I think that is something that has been undeniably compelling about how and why I followed like this path and the power method, and specifically the breath. When I'm sitting with a charge, it's so colorful what I experience. It's incredible. And I've written poems about it, and I've gone from a 180, like just miserable, to like elated, like, and this was like just in the beginning. And this is why I was like, who is Arda? Like, what's going on? Because I had been dependent on therapists for so long for my emotional wellness and balance. And here I had this technique. That was right in my hands, that I could have this like cosmic connection. It's just, and the breath, sometimes I'll hold it for like 30 seconds. And I don't know if that's, making things not work, but it
gets close to illegal levels. Okay.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful experience.
Beautiful, great to hear. And
Arda, so what if tell me the two words. Sorry, I always, if then so what if
what if
what if what's
what
the
if
rest?
so
what if so what?
Yeah.
Is that a way to tell another story? Is that
Oh, great question. So Beth, it is kind of, so what you said about the breath, so I wanted to go back to that. Let me answer it that way, or maybe not answer, but just kind of reflect. And I'm curious how this is going to resonate. So when we concentrate on the discomfort in our body that is caused by an emotional reaction or by a trigger, hence the emotional reaction, the emotion is there. The trapped emotion, the blockage and repressed fear is there. So when we focus on it and when we inhale into it, we bring all of our power together, our presence, and that's why you are calling it higher consciousness. In that second, with our sharp focus, we put all of our efforts into that charge, take it and release it, discharge it. So how I'm going to tie that to what if, so what is when you pause, okay, something hit you, a trigger, and you pause. All this story is going in your head. If you rewrite that story, you will stay in your head. So that's what Dionne was alluding to. Where is that coming from? Yes, you could be very aware of the situation, of your fears, and you're very aware why you are triggered. But when you ask a what if, so what, you are neutralizing your energy because you are stepping back, take a step back, and you're looking at the situation and you say, what if I was late? So what? What if I missed the meeting? So what? You are getting into that neutral, curious situation, curious energy. That neutral energy takes you out of the situation so that you don't have to, in my opinion, you don't have to write the story anymore, because that thought, negative thought, is being offset with your neutral energy. Like you are looking into it. Boom, like, what if I missed the meeting? So what? What are the consequences? Oh, I'm going to look like incompetent. I'm going to look like, I don't know, for myself, I would think that I would be embarrassed. I would be an idiot. I would be like, then, okay, what am I, full of the town, full of the company, idiot of the finance department. So what? So I'm challenging my thoughts instead of rewriting them. What do you think?
Is it also a tool to dig deeper to see if there's more beneath the iceberg?
If you like
Sure,
scuba
kind of
diving,
get to that
yes.
underlying fear that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, that, because you will realize the fear repeating theme underneath of these what if, so what if, so what is always there. Okay, I'm going to turn the iceberg upside down. It is the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, it never changes. The whole thing is storms are happening above the ocean, but the bottom of the ocean, you would see that every time it's the same. It's that fear. We have 3 to 5 fears, repressed fears. That's all we have. And guess what? We have 100 years to learn about them. And life keeps coming back at us with these triggers to say, hey, did you look at this fear? No, it's his fault. No, it's her fault. Well, okay, all right. If you're gonna just do that, and then a week later, the same thing. So exactly, what if, so what takes you to the fears?
So Lisa, you had asked earlier, kind of, reminded me that you had asked earlier, like about things coming up again. Didn't you say something? Well, will you have to? And so is this?
I was curious as to the progress. Like once there is realization and there's awareness, and we've been able to release some of that from our body, is that the point where we rise above on a conscious level? And does that mean that these sort of mishaps don't come into our life as frequently?
Wouldn't that be nice?
And that is exactly it. It is very nice, because the consciousness, exactly. The consciousness rises, and when the consciousness rises, then your consciousness, then the limiting life patterns, the message doesn't need to be that harsh of an invitation for you to dig, because again, and to realize and become aware, because you already started that breath work. We talked about the breath work is actually inhaling and exhaling. It's not a big secret, right? It's just finding that in the body that makes you digest the charge. So the less blocked energy you have, less repressed fears you have, why does life need to tap on your shoulder as harshly as it was tapping to wake you up? You're already awakened.
Well, and I know we're running low on time, but I just wanted to add on top of that is the synchronicities of life, right? That's like the ultimate, that's the happiness, is when
It's the fun
life
part,
is
isn't it, Lisa?
yeah, it's ease, it's everything just working out with effortlessly.
Oh yeah. There is one beautiful, Lisa, that is exactly effortless action. And Beth, you opened that with Law of Life 1, and effortless action is at the end. I think we covered the whole book in 30 minutes. Oh,
I don't
beautiful.
know. There's a few laws in between. So
why don't we do that next time? If one of them.
our next one is life is not meant to be heavy or confusing. So there you go. We can delve a little deeper into that.
Yes.
I'd love to hear some of Dionne's poetry as well.
Oh, you can find it. It's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's your
nice.
YouTube channel?
It's my name, Dionne Dever. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Mary.
I'll look for it.
Yep.
Oh, beautiful. Nice plug-in, and
Wasn't
please,
anticipating that.
please go and visit Dionne's YouTube channel. It's beautiful. I'm personally subscribed. Can't wait for her next video. And also, it's been incredibly fun. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Yeah. We'll have to
That's
do it
good.
again next week.
Shall we?
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
lovely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Never knew Dionne had a YouTube channel. Ooh,
Yes.
excited now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.